Good morning, everybody. It is coffee time here at the shop before we open. I haven't used the podcast table in a while, just too busy. But there is something that I've been wanting to do for a while. It's been in my brain, and I'm gonna give it a shot here, and hopefully regularly, at least once a month, moving forward. And what that is it's both for my customers and future customers, but also it's kind of selfish for myself and self-development. I'm going to visit my favorite vendors and part companies' websites and go through them, give you what knowledge I have, as well as look at new products that are coming out, things that they're working on, and whatever. Just go through their website and see what they got going on, and talk about all the parts that I like, and most importantly for myself, learn about their new products, because sometimes I get caught up with running the business and just doing the best job that I can and taking care of my customers with the products that I know. But all these great companies that I work with are constantly developing things. So yeah, I thought this would be a good way to educate myself as well as you guys. So let's start with number one, who I have probably purchased the most from in the 6 years in business we've been here, which is Van Compass. So here's their website. You can't miss a lot of their branding. It's always this teal color. It's pretty funny. But first on the website here, as you see, is what's new with the new all-wheel drive Sprinter van. And this is a really good article. I read through it. And they talk about, what are the differences in the new van that that has to do with their products, suspension. As you see here, Rob's working on the winch bumper. It sits a little bit farther forward inside the front plastic bumper. It's still hidden, but it definitely sits differently. There's a bunch of magical gadgets underneath it. Some weird chassis support bracket over the drive shaft. According to this, they think this is an exhaust brake, which is very interesting. With a little 4-cylinder twin turbo, it'd be cool to drive that and see how that feels and see how much that actually does to preserve the brakes. But from what I've seen on Sprinter vans to begin with, the brakes, if it doesn't sit and get rot on the rotors, and you keep driving your van, I've seen people not have to change their brakes until 140,000 miles. So yeah, I don't know, 200,000 mile brake jobs. Here we come. So yeah, this is a good article. You should definitely read through it. I don't know whose van that is. I'm sure they just built it for a local, a local upfitter or customer or something like that. But they got skid plates in there, and I can tell by those bolts right there that the skid plate's a bit different. I mean, I guess obviously it's different because it has this weird cross member right here that is holding up. So it's a different transmission mount. Yeah, so it's a new transmission cross member. Anyways, all right, so there is that article. You should definitely read that. This is their new full leaf spring replacement. So in the past, most of their kits come with a mini spring pack, which is an add-a-leaf pack. Basically, it doesn't replace this main part of the leaf spring in your van, and it just adds a few of these leaves to the bottom of it to give you a more diverse spring rate and increased spring rate. But in some cases, some vans would outweigh the capabilities of that mini spring pack, and you would need to do a full leaf spring replacement. They resold another company's leaf springs that made very nice ones, so it was awesome. But they just recently developed this one, the OptiRate, and you can adjust this preload spacer right here. I'm gonna click on this, see if it gives us more details. This is funny because every time a customer is like, God, my leaf springs are squeaking, I always tell them, I'm like, there's leaf springs on wooden wagons that cross the country. And the technology has really not changed. I actually haven't read through this yet. I don't know what's going on here. Oh, it's a screenshot. Oh my God. I thought somebody made a... Okay, I'm just going to keep scrolling. So this is their new leaf spring. And you can run no preload spacer in there, a small one as you see, or you can add that one to really increase the pressure of these overload springs onto the main leaf pack at all times. If you run nothing there, it probably won't even touch these until you're under a huge load or you're off-roading. This opens up the door for so many options for vans. If, for example, my van, sometimes it's empty and it weighs like 6,000 pounds, and sometimes my 6,500 pound trailer is behind it. So I could drive around with a nice soft spring rate, and then before going on a big towing trip, I could pop a couple preload spacers in there. I don't know how easy they are to change, but it's definitely an option, and I think it's really cool. The other thing too is a lot of people either build their van, and they think it's going to weigh one weight, and then a year and a half later, it's 1,500 pounds heavier than they thought it was going to be. So as your build progresses, you can add preload to your leaf pack to help support your van. I would even argue if you stay, local a lot, and you don't hit the highway a lot, like maybe you don't want all that preload in there. But then if you're going to, hit the road from here and go out to the Midwest or something, you might want to tighten that up. All those long highways with the winds out in the, the flatlands of the Midwest. This would give you the option to totally change your spring rate and your, its road manners by just adding these small preload spacers. Again, I haven't had these in here yet. I'll be excited to see how... I guess serviceable is the word I'm thinking with these spacers, taking them in and out, or if it's kind of a one and done thing. But I'm definitely excited to have these come through here. Man, there's a huge write-up on this. I only read part of it. I should probably sit down and read some more of this. It's been a long time. Their 4.3 with the mini pack covers 90% of applications. So the only time I really do a full leaf spring replacement is if it's an extremely heavy van, or if you're going to be doing a lot of off-roading. It helps to have all these smaller leaves. It's more of a progressive spring rate, so it gives you a smoother articulation. But like I said, that's a rare customer. I have them. I probably have about 30 of them, either extremely heavy or crazy off-roading people. But for the most part, the factory Mercedes leaf spring is really nice. Has nice bushings, nice and quiet. It supports quite a bit, but with the mini pack under, it covers most applications. So don't overthink this too much. If you're extremely heavy, or if you're going to be doing a lot of off-roading, consider replacing your leaf spring. If not, just get the 4.3, the mini pack. Let's go back home here. I want to scroll through the rest of these. So... Oh, they didn't have in the articles. Bam, Baja brackets. Hold on, let's go back. I want to... So they got Falcon shocks. Okay. Falcon shocks. What was that other one? American made the way it ought to be. I think I'm supposed to read that in like an old guy voice. Anyway, so Baja brackets. Everyone asked me, do I need Baja brackets? And I'm going to tell you the number that I've been telling everybody. I have between 200 and 300 van customers, and I can name off the top of my head the 3 that have had a shock bolt failure. So it's real. It happens. If you do a lot of off-roading, of course, they don't have any pictures of it in its stock form. If you do a lot of off-roading, Your shocks need to be double shear mounted. And what that means is, how do I explain this? So let me just hop over to, I'm going to open a new tab here. And what do we got? Rear shocks. Maybe there's a picture. All right. So here you see there's a bolt going into the shock from one side, and then it goes into the body. So basically the shock is hanging off of that bolt, essentially. But, that's okay. That's how it is from the factory, But with a lot of articulation or a lot of extra load, there's no support on the outside of this shock. So it's leveraging on that bolt all the time. And it can ovalize the hull. I think this is how it happens. It ovalizes the hull, and that allows the threads to loosen up. And then the bolt slowly backs out until there's enough room for it to leverage it and just shear the bolt off. All 3 of my customers that have failed, they sent me a picture of a broken bolt shank down in the hole, and they went to a local welding shop, and it just threaded right out. So it's real. If you do a lot of off-roading, or if your van is extremely heavy, you should consider these. If not, just make sure it's tight. That's a whole nother lecture in itself. A lot of people buy these vans and they have us upfit them and stuff like that, and they think it's like this fixed thing, like a sculpture, like, oh, I did it, it's done. It is not. You are building an off-road vehicle with an RV on top of it. You have purchased yourself a hobby. This hobby requires constant input, maintenance, just precautionary stuff. You should be doing nut and bolt checks all the time on your off-road suspension, especially if your off-road vehicle weighs 9,000 pounds and doesn't have a frame. The chassis of these vans move and twist so much, especially when they're loaded down, that you need to regularly check your hardware. I would argue not even every maintenance, just because these go so far. Like every 5,000 miles, spend an afternoon with a fistful of wrenches and just check your shock bolts, check your leaf spring bolts, check your lug nuts, especially if you have aftermarket wheels. Look for leaks, stuff like that. When you're going through the woods, even a state park, it takes as much as a little twig to just go up in your wheel well and grab a brake hose, Anyways, that's another rant. Well, we'll talk about maintaining vans at another time. So, Baja brackets. If you have a heavy van or you're doing a lot of off-roading, you should consider going with the Baja brackets. A lot of people online are whining and saying that, the 4.3 kit should come with it if those bolts are, prone to breaking. But, obviously Van Compass wouldn't make this if it wasn't real, right? But, take it from me. I have so many customers, and only 3 of them have had a bolt failure. So, just check your bolt. Make sure it's tight. If it starts creaking and it's still tight, then maybe you need Baja brackets. But anyways, that's my speech on Baja brackets. They're pretty cool. So what they do is they attach to the factory mounting hole. They tie it into the front cross member right here with a couple of bolts. And they make a double shear. So instead of just being supported and hanging off the bolt, it is now mounted on this side and that side, and it's sandwiched into the frame. So that's my speech on Baja brackets. All right, let's go down a little bit here. So this is cool. If you just want to scroll, I'm sure this is more for like cell phones right here, but it's nice and easy right here. 1922 sprinters. 07 to 18 sprinters like mine. Old school sprinters. These are pretty cool. The T1Ns. This is actually when I found out about Van Compass. I remember Rob and Mark were on a Dirt Everyday episode, and Rob was talking about putting some Mercedes SUV IFS 4-wheel drive suspension into these, and that fizzled away, obviously. Transit, ProMaster, and new products. I didn't click on that yet. This isn't new. What? Why does it say new? Half the stuff ain't new. I mean, it's good stuff though. Okay, let's back up. Back to the main page. What do we got here? Revel Storyteller upgrades. These are cool because a lot of people get a little bit confused about whether or not aftermarket stuff will fit their Revel or Storyteller or Integra Launch or Airstream. I forget what the Airstream and the Thor one are, but to normal people that aren't crazy off-road people like us, that can be a little confusing. So it's probably a nice peace of mind to click on this and just go, oh, this is for Revels or Storytellers. There's not a lot of differences when it comes to like off-road stuff, but sometimes with like tanks and power systems and stuff, there is fitment stuff on the chassis that doesn't make sense. Handling upgrades. Well, they make it pretty simple. Recovery. I install so many of these hidden winch mounts. It's really the best thing on the market. I think the front of the Sprinter vans looks so good. So I don't like changing them that much. And the Van Compass hidden winch mount is such a good product for that. It's strong, probably the strongest out of all the winch bumpers. It houses a 12,000 pound winch, has D-ring shackles. It retains all your park sensor locations. It does relocate your radar box for your adaptive cruise and braking, but they do it very well. And, so the radar box, I install these all the time, and I have 2 customers, one that I literally have to text back right now, that the box just didn't sit right in there, and after a few hundred miles, it had to be adjusted and recalibrated, but honestly, it's not that big of a deal. So if you're wondering about, sensors and stuff like that and installing a winch bumper on a Sprinter van, I'd say Van Compass is the most thought out design as far as sensors go. That's usually a big concern for people. It's definitely the strongest. So that's my favorite option, obviously. You can tell by the way I'm talking about it. I've never installed their Transit one. I've definitely never installed their ProMaster one. I'm going to click on that one to see what it looks like. If there's any vehicle that needs a winch out of all of these, it's the ProMaster one. Man, those things are not capable of much. I mean, I got one stuck trying to pull it in the shop one time because there was like literally, I shoveled off the sidewalk in the mound of snow just from like scraping in front of the door here. Got the van stuck. It was crazy. So that's pretty cool. So that's the same deal. It's hidden. It looks like it mounts very similarly. I mean, look at that. Look how well tied in that shackle point is. Forget about the winch. Look at the shackle point. Most companies, not even just vans, but most companies that make aftermarket bumpers, like literally just glue this shackle mount to the surface of like an 1/8 inch plate bumper. So scary. So that looks really good. If you got a ProMaster, hit me up. I want to install one of these. Got to trim the grill a little bit. I wonder what winch that is. It's only a 9500. I wonder if it only fits one of those. I don't know. Oh, let's see here. Only winches are confirmed to be compatible. Warn M8000, XD9000. So that's pretty small. But I guess a ProMaster's pretty light. I wonder what like a Travato is because it's all upfitted. Especially the one with the generator in it. All right. Anyways, lighting. This is another big item that I install a lot here. The floating light mount. If you're looking for a lighting solution for the front of your van, this is the least intrusive. This says LP9s on it, and that is a bad idea. I'm here to tell you that. I installed these on like 2 people's vans, and usually I don't drive people's stuff at night, so I didn't realize it until I think it was like wintertime, and I was driving a customer's van, and it was dark out, whether it was in the morning or at night. And those LP9s, once I turned them on, I happened to just turn them on because, I don't know, they're pretty bright lights, right? And they're just too heavy. They're making this mount bounce. It was like a strobe light in front of me. It was miserable. I couldn't drive like that. So, man, that's the only option on there. What are you guys doing? I don't know. Maybe that's just my opinion. They wouldn't sell it if it was a problem, right? I guess. The LP6 though, I put LP6s on all of them. They fit great. They work amazing, obviously. And they don't bounce. So that's really nice. So either an LP6 or any other similar like 6-7 inch light is definitely acceptable for those things. I have this on my van. Literally the mount goes behind here, behind the grill. You have to like trim one little piece of plastic over here, and then the brackets just slide through. So you just wire these up, run them through here, through your firewall. You get a dash switch from, there's a few different companies that make Mercedes factory dash switch kits that you can use to wire up accessories. Use a relay, don't be a criminal. And nice and easy to wire up, not intrusive. You don't have to cut any holes in anything. This is a great product. I love this. Oh, and that being said, that's another difference with the new ones, the 2023 all-wheel drive vans. Everything in the engine bay is just kind of rearranged and crowded, and I guess that floating light mount's a little bit different. So that's it for the main page. This is really cool right here. This is my number one. A customer calls me about a van. First thing I do is pull up Van Compass's website. I go over here and bam, right here. What are we doing? Are we doing an NCV3, my body style, my shop van? Are we doing a Transit ProMaster? Are we doing a Sprinter van? And now you have to pay attention. There's an all-wheel drive and there's a 4x4 and a 2-wheel drive selection. So you got to be careful and make sure you get the right one because there's differences in all of these. Just for the sake of consistency here, I'm just going to go to 4-wheel drive. So if you're looking at a Van Compass suspension and you took to the internet, everyone on there is going to tell you to buy this, the 4.3. And this covers most applications. Adjustable shocks. If you guys want, I can do a video about these adjustable shocks at some point, kind of like my opinion about it. Rob does a pretty good one on them. But, everyone's use of their van and opinion of it is definitely different, and everyone has a different use for the adjustable shocks. I'll definitely say that. It's not just off-roading. Actually, off-roading is the least of the... It's the least of the, selling points of that shock. All right, so that's my number one sold thing. It's the 4.3, right? I would say number 2 is the Stage 3, which is the same thing. They're just not adjustable. Oops, clicked on it. So not everyone's going to adjust their shocks. And every time I sell a suspension, I will talk to a customer. I basically interrogate them and, how they use their van, how they plan to use it. Have they used one in the past? What are their habits? Where do they go off-road? Do they think they're going to go off-road? Stuff like that. And sometimes I'll say, you know what? Let's save you, what do we got there? $1,100. Let's save you $1,100. You don't need to be adjusting shocks. It doesn't seem like it fits your lifestyle. And let's, spend that $1,000 on something else. A nice set of quiet tires, because chances are you bought a Revel and it came with dump truck tires on it. BFGs. That's another rant. I just installed a 6.5, not on a VS30, but a NCV3 on a good customer of ours, Ben. He had a 4.3 from Van Compass from years ago, one of the first van customers that I had, and it had the Fox shocks on it, which was great, especially at the time. But he's been really using his van and he loves it, so he wanted to give it a little refresh. And so we ended up installing the 6.5, which is a 2-inch lift with the automatic adjusting Falcon suspension. And this has a little control unit that senses, G's under acceleration, braking, turning, swaying and stuff like that. And it sends signals through these wire harnesses out to the shocks. And these are the same shocks that have the adjusters, like on a 4.3 that you would turn by hand. But this little actuator will adjust the shock on the fly according to how you're driving, the presets you have it set at. And, you never have to adjust your suspension. You can adjust it with your phone if you want. So that was amazing. And driving it was a little bit disorientating, because I'm used to just the shocks being on one tune and, hitting bumps and stuff and having it be predictable. Well, you would drive it down the road and it's nice and tight, very responsive. Slam on the brakes, the front end doesn't dive. But I would pull into like our kind of local test area we have here and start hitting some bumps, and it would just start floating. It was the most bizarre feeling ever. I hope more customers go for that, because that was, it's expensive, but you definitely get what you pay for. Let's see, sway bar disconnect. Let's see if there's a number here. So if you know anything about off-roading, Jeeps and stuff, a sway bar, factory sway bar, will restrict your articulation. And you want your suspension to articulate as much as you can to keep your wheels and tires on the ground, especially with an open differential. And so this, when you disconnect it, it allows for 3 inches of additional articulation. That's like double the articulation of a Sprinter van. So I don't have one of these. I don't do a lot of off-roading with my van, but I do have like 5 customers with it, and they love it. They say it just like makes going off-road much more enjoyable. So if you do a lot of off-roading, you should consider that. So just about all of Van Compass's full suspension systems come with these Sumo springs in the front. I wish they had more pictures of it. So the original bump stop in the front doesn't make contact with the control arm until the suspension's getting close, and then it stops the suspension, right? Well, these are double the size, but they're super soft. They're progressive rate bump stops, so it's riding on it all the time, and it's very soft, but because it's constantly making contact, whenever the van wants to sway or anything like that, the more you compress that bump stop, the spring rate increases, and it gets stiffer and stiffer and stiffer and stiffer. So it's basically like adding an overload spring to the front, but you're not feeling it until you need to. It's pretty cool. So, if you have swaying issues on the highway or something like that, this is going to make a huge difference. And if you're on a budget and you can't afford the 4.3 or something like that, start with these. These will blow you away. These are awesome. They make them for the back, and I just don't have the same opinion about the back ones. They're a little bit more rough. I don't know. But, some people like them. I'm not sure. I don't know what to say about the back ones. I'm not as convinced that they are as much of a result as the front ones. And I may be right, because all these kits don't come with those, right? No. Yeah, none of their complete kits come with those, but you can see all of them. You see 2 little dots there. Those front ones come with all the suspension kits, so I'm probably on something. The rear ones, I don't think they do as much as the front ones. They definitely do something. They have to, because they're always making contact. So, what do we got here? Oh, skid plates. If you're worried about protecting the underside of your van, get Van Compass's skid plates. They were the first ones. Everyone else makes knockoffs of these same skid plates. So you could probably buy them somewhere else, but why? Buy them from these guys. They're the best. front to back. This goes all the way up to the crash bar in front of your intercooler. And we got a picture of it. Yeah, so this is your crash bar up here that protects your intercooler. Then it goes down, hits the whole subframe right here, protects your engine, oil pan. Then it dips up behind it right here, protects your transmission and your transfer case. The front plate is steel. The bottom ones are aluminum just to save weight, but they're super thick, so they're just as strong. Fuel tank skid plate. This is the factory fuel tank, and most people these days are running the big fuel tank. I was gonna make a skid plate for it, and I figured I'd call them first and say, hey guys, just want to make sure before I dump time and money into making a skid plate, you guys aren't already making one. And I think they were working on it. I don't know if they want me saying that, but I don't know. Stay tuned for that, I guess. Or maybe we'll stumble across it on the website here. Here's the fuel tank listing. Yeah, it doesn't say anything about the SMB tank. Well, we'll see. Maybe they didn't make one. Listen, if they didn't make it, they got a reason for it, so maybe I shouldn't either. This is a rear diff skid plate. This is more important than you think. So, let's see if I can get a better picture here. So there's a little lip around your diff cover, right? And it sticks out outside the bolts there and goes all the way around. And if you hit that lip, if you drag it over a rock or something, you will literally peel this diff cover off. Your fluid will drain out, and you will burn up your axle and be spending probably $8,000 at the dealership. So this skid plate protects you from that. What else it protects you from is I had a customer come through here one time, and so the factory mounting of a Sprinter van wheel is a lug bolt, and he was at a tire shop just getting his tires rotated like an adult and mid-trip out in the West Coast somewhere, and they cross-threaded one of the holes, and the holes are threaded right into the axle shaft. So they had to jack it up and swap it out and everything. And when they were jacking it up, they put it on the diff cover, the jack, and it peeled it up, and it was just dripping and dripping and dripping. So after they had already cross-threaded this, rethreaded, or got a new axle shaft from Mercedes, made the customer pay for it, and whatever, he continued on his trip with his differential dripping and dripping and dripping. He didn't notice it until it was empty, and it burnt his diff up. So, you drag that thing across a rock, or if, somebody just accidentally puts the jack on it. I mean, I'm sure I've done it before. I've never noticed it. I tried not to, but, accidents do happen. So get this differential skid. It'll help you just with off-roading. Just the way it's designed, like you can drag this thing over rocks all day and just not have a worry in the world. When you're off-roading, you try to, aim at rocks in the safest manner, and, you don't have to think about this twice. Honestly, I'd be more worried about the shock brackets. All right, here, see if I can get them. I'd be more worried about hitting those than I would be about hitting that. So if you do any off-roading, or if you don't work on your own van, maybe you should consider getting this. Just for some of those reasons. I actually don't sell a lot of them. Most people kind of overlook that one for some reason. Let's skim over to page 2 here. All right. So the trunk. If you're smuggling things, you need to hide them in your floor. This is a great option. You cut a giant hole in the back of your brand new van, and you drop this thing down in there. Oh, look at that. I've done that. I did this in a Sportsmobile once, and I put, because the batteries were mounted outside and he wanted them inside. What, is that the heater? That's cool. I've never seen that before. That's a good idea. Anyway, so if you need more storage in your van and you're cool with cutting a gigantic hole in it, like I can sit in this thing. I mean, it's huge. This is a good option. Fold down beds. I know nothing about that. Power steering fix. Mercedes kind of sorted that out. pedal control. That's another time. Rocker guard, slider, door step extension. So these rocker guards, let me tell you about their side step rocker guard thingies. These things are insane. They're crazy. They're crazy. This should just be called like bomb armor. This picture right here, that's a real picture. That's crazy stuff. Look at that smile on Rob's face. That's real. I bet you that tire's spinning. I have a crazy customer. His name's Charlie. He likes off-roading. He likes driving his van in the woods, staying in his van, and not leaving. I put him on his, and I mean, the construction of these things, of course, they don't show it very well. Yeah, it shows it kind of well. So there's a bottom piece and a top piece, and they fit together like this. And they're 1/8-inch steel. And when they fit together like this, the pinch seam is right here, and then you bolt them over the pinch seam. And then they have these frame tie-in brackets, front and rear. They have them along the side. It's so overkill. I mean, you can literally, like, this picture is real. Like, you could stand the whole van up on that and not hurt the pinch seam. Your doors are all still open. It's awesome. So if you're doing a lot of off-roading, or if you want a low profile, not giant tube step hanging down off your van, this is a really good option. This is a clean look. They're steel, so you got to keep the rust off them in the Northeast, which isn't easy, but you know, no aftermarket parts survive in the Northeast, so that shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. But if you're looking for a really strong option or a, you know, slick looking option, definitely pick these things up. They are serious. They are not playing games. I've never installed these before, just because I think most people consider this a driveway install. This is their tug step for the hitch on the back of the van for doing recovery. Most of the VS30s have 2 holes in the side of the hitch. I'm assuming those just bolt in right there. And that's it. So you got a rear step and you got D-ring mounts for recovery. It's pretty cool. So that's a small one. And I think they have they have this like full width one, which is pretty wild. I wonder how that works with those park sensors. I'm sure they pick it up. What do we got here? So it just goes right over the factory hitch, as you see. Oh, I guess I was right. 2 bolts right there. This is their side ladder. If you're looking for a really sturdy, like not tubular ladder, this is a good one. It's kind of like their side steps. It's overbuilt. You could probably get in a full-on T-bone car wreck with this thing, and your ladder will be fine. They have the adapters to bolt it to their side steps too, as you see here. And it has square tread plates, which some people prefer that over, you know, round ones. You put like grip tape on there too if you want. So this is similar to the winch mount. I've never sold it because it's kind of silly to sell this and not the winch one. But yeah, I mean, it's an option. If you don't think you want a winch, for $1,000, you can have this, again, insanely overbuilt recovery point for the front. I mean, knowing how they mount this and looking at this, you could probably hang the whole van from this thing. So that's, I've never, like I said, if someone's looking for a recovery point in the front, I just go right for that hidden winch mount. I've even installed it with no winch because it just has 2 shackle mounts on the front, and it's, you know, I'd rather 2 shackle mounts than a receiver. But some people, you know, hang bikes off the front, like hammocks, out the receiver, so they really need that. All right, so that's Mercedes. This is dragging out a lot longer than I thought it was going to. So if you have a Sprinter van, Transit, sorry, a Ford Transit, transitioning here. There's not as many options just because it's just not designed as well. But they do have heavier springs you can install on the front. You can buy these kits with Bilsteins. Personally, I don't think the Bilsteins are that big of an upgrade. They're definitely an upgrade, but not like wait till yours are worn out to put these in. There's no sense in replacing your factory ones. They have the adjustable Falcons, just like the other kits, or the non-adjustables if you don't want to. All these kits have a spacer, so it's just kind of the way the geometry works. A little bit of added spring rate doesn't quite lift it enough, so to get the full lift out of it, they also have a spacer you put on top of the strut. And the rear is a mini pack unless you have a dually, I believe, and then it has a single leaf. In that case, you do blocks. I think Agile sells a full leaf spring replacement, but most of the time that is not necessary. I wonder if they'll make those new OptiRate springs for this Transit kit. That'll be interesting. So here's the springs. Here's just the springs and the spacers if you wanted to just level it. Actually, I think just the spacers would level it, but if you need that spring rate and you want to level it, there's this. These are like brake line relocation brackets. Got to put those in. Shackle lift. I don't know why anybody would do that, but it's there. Floating light mount. I haven't installed one on a Ford yet, but I imagine it's just as well designed. Use the shock relocation brackets. On these Transit vans, your shock hangs down almost lower. It might hang down lower than the diff does. So if you go over any sort of terrain, you're dragging those over everything. So these relocation brackets are cool. They raise them up like 3 inches. Is it 3 inches? Let's see if it says. 2 inches. 2 inches. Gives you 2 inches more of clearance, which is a big deal. You know, you're not going to get that from a lift kit or a tire, really. Not especially on a van. And I just spilled coffee on my computer. A-pillar light pod mounts. That's pretty cool. Winch bumper. We already talked about that. The intercooler hangs way down on these things. So they make this skid plate with an access hole for servicing the engine. This is like a number one. If you're building if you think you're going to be going off-road, like get it riding right with the suspension. Protect the front of this thing. We had a Transit come in here not too long ago, and it was completely mangled, like holes in the intercooler and everything, and they just barely like ran into a stump. Nerf bar mount. What is this? Nerf bar for... Oh. A little bling bling for your winch mount if you have their hidden winch bumper. That's cool. Let's see here. Rocker guards. I haven't installed those yet, but they're constructed the same way. So, same speech I just gave about the Mercedes ones. Just go back a minute. Diff skid, same argument. This one's cool though because I think it bolts to the. It bolts to the diff. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. You know, this is just a truck diff. I wonder if that would fit like F-150s and stuff. This is a recovery hook. I've installed this before. Some people that just don't want a winch, they put this giant thing on the front. Again, it's designed very well, like everything else that these boys make, and you could hang your van from it if you'd like. These are the spacers for the front. If you want to run I believe it's a 245 or bigger, you need this little 3/16 spacer. Just to keep the tire off of the strut. I think it's for strut clearance between the tire and the strut. Sumo springs. See, these ones are very similar to the front ones on the Sprinter van, but you can get them for the back, for the Transit van. So I support getting these first and foremost. Anywhere from a light van to an extremely heavy RV. All right, that's it for Fords. I don't want to talk about ProMasters because, well, there's not much to talk about. There's a winch. There's an 1.5-inch lift. They're designed terribly. So the Van Compass did the best they could and made a small little lift kit for them. They're just, it's just a giant car. That's all ProMaster is. It's a giant Dodge Neon. So you can't really mess with the geometry too much. They found the safe, happy medium, which was an 1.5 inch. So do an 1.5 inch lift, put some sumo springs in it and a winch, and enjoy your extra width and space in the back. That covers those. I wonder what's in here for the old Sprinters. Not much. Camber shims, lift kit, and Falcon shocks though. That's cool. I would actually love one of these things. They're wicked fun to drive. I think they have a 5-cylinder in them. Pretty cool. So that's kind of my review of Van Compass's website. I love these guys. They've been key in the construction of this business as the years have gone on. They're great to work with. If I got a stupid question, they're glad to answer it. Sometimes I have really complicated questions that they work on with me. Yeah, those guys are the best, man. They're the best. So if you need anything for your van, give them a call. If you want somebody to install it, go on their website here, click find a dealer, go down to Massachusetts, click on Built for the East, and don't call anybody else. I'll install it for you. Oh, it goes to my Facebook? Mark, come on, buddy. I got a website. That's okay. The Facebook's cool because you see all my recent stuff that we're working on. Let's back this thing up. What else is on the page here? Oh, they got a blog. Did they ever update it? It's probably like my blog. So we got 2023, 2023, 2022, 2020. Yeah, so it's like mine. They don't update it. There's not much update. They got new stuff and it's right here. But blog more. Tire size questions. This is good. This is good. If you're wondering about tire sizes, a tire you want to fit, the maximum tire that you can fit without messing with your adaptive cruise control, this is a really good resource for that. So go over there and look at that. As time goes on, we'll be able to put bigger tires on, regardless of cruise control and stuff like that. But as of right now, I don't have confidence in any of the currently developing items yet. So it'll come. A couple really good companies like Rentec are working on the solution to that. But right now, 275s. That's as big as you're going on a VS30. Cool. Well, that dragged on a little longer than I thought it was gonna. I only covered a few things on the site, but those are all the things that I work with, and this is a really good website to figure out what you need. And if you need anything, opinions about anything like that, feel free to give them a call or give me a call. They're the basically the first on the market, and they're the best. So hop on this website and buy something. See you guys. Thanks for watching.